Welcome to our lecture on professional conduct and ethical standards. This course deals with the professional conduct and ethical standards of professionals and as criminologists in the practice of their profession and field of specialization, governing ethical codes both in government and private sectors and their relevance to human relations. The word ethics derived from the Greek word ethikos, or that pertains to ethos, which the English translation is custom or character. It is the branch of philosophy that tries to determine the good and right or right thing to do. Ethics is also a practical science of normality of human conduct. It is the normative science of the conduct of human beings living in the societies, science which judges this conduct to be right or wrong, to be good or bad. There are also three areas of ethical theories. One, we have metaethics. It is the study of the origin and meaning of ethical concepts. It focuses on what is morality. It digs into the morality of ethical claims. It is connected to philosophy as it analyzes fundamental ethical concepts. Metaethics is concerned with what we mean when we use words like good, bad, right, or wrong. We have here an example. If we could prove empirically and provide proof that women make better parents than men, if this is a fact, then we could argue that men should not be single parents, and this is our moral judgment. Another example, it is wrong to kill, so that is still part of our moral judgment. Next, we also have normative ethics. Normative ethics is the study of ethical action, typically focusing on what is morally right and wrong. It focuses on what is moral. Normative ethics question the good or bad of an action. It is more practical as it applies to basic human behavior. In other words, normative ethics deals with what things are right or wrong, and they help people to understand what is right and moral and what is wrong and immoral. They tell people what to do and what not to do. So, an example we have here, is it wrong to kill one person to save many lives? In normative ethics, there are different theories as to how criteria of moral conduct should be defined. So we have deontological, deontological or the duty theories locate the basis of morality on specific foundational principles of duty and obligation. These principles are binding regardless of the consequences that acting on their basis might bring. Another one, we have the consequentialist theories. So it determines the value of an action on the grounds of a cost-benefit analysis of its consequences. If the positive consequences outweigh the negative ones, then the action is morally proper. And lastly, virtue. This theory focuses on the given set of rules like do not steal, and the like. But instead of defining them merely as obligatory duties, the emphasis lies on the individual to develop good habits of character based on these rules. Thus, virtue theory emphasizes moral education. Applied ethics is a discipline of philosophy that attempts to apply ethical theory to real life situations. It is usually used to determine public policy, or it examines a specific controversial issues. For example, the issue of abortion can be seen as an applied ethical topic since it involves a specific type of controversial behavior. Another one, capital punishment. We also have war. We also have animal rights and the like. Morality of human acts refers to the goodness or the badness, the rightness or the wrongness of human acts. The morality of human acts depends on the object of an act. It is an object of an act if the act is good, when it is in conformity with reason, or when it fulfills or fits the demand of a certain reason. Next, the end of the action. The natural purpose of the act, that in which the act in its very nature terminates or results. The end of the action is the primary determinant of morality. Lastly, we have circumstances of human action. It includes such things as the act being done at a particular time and place by a particular agent in a particular manner. Idealism and realism are philosophical theories propounded by two Greek philosophers, namely Plato and Aristotle. Plato is known as the father of idealism, while Aristotle is known as the father of realism. In layman's language, idealism is a theory that professes that reality exists only in ideas. It also states that ideally everything and everyone should be perfect and flawless. Realism, on the other hand, has a more practical approach on looking at things. Realism states that things and people should be accepted as they are. That is with all their defects and weaknesses. Okay, our next topic, or the lesson 2, is entitled Understanding Values. Values is defined as an assessment of worth. It has direct bearing on social actions of individuals, such as moral and ethical actions. Values are shared experiences. They have certain degree of assumed commonality. They are communal with a strong concern for others. Not all values are necessarily moral. We have an example of strong values of Filipinos like utang na loob. Utang na loob is a reciprocal relationship between people acting as mutual allies and who depend on each other's assistance in times of crisis. And we also have hiya, the extension of pakikisama, which means strong pressure in one. Another one, we have marunong makisama, or getting along with others. And lastly, marunong kumilala ng utang na loob, knowing how to repay favors received. Lesson 3, Understanding Morality. Morality is the foundation of every human society. It refers to the set of standards that enable people to live cooperatively in groups. It is what societies determine to be right and acceptable. It is an important component of a human being because it helps to shape the ethical foundation that every human being has. Next, we have ethics versus morality. Ethics is the code of moral principles and values that governs the behaviors of a person or group with respect to what is right or wrong. It is the sets of standard as to what is good or bad in the conduct and decision making. Ethics are rules that helps us tell the difference between right and wrong and encourage us to do the right thing and avoid wrong thing. They can help people decide on the best course of action in situations where they aren't sure what to do. While morality is being accord with standards of right or good conduct. This is instilled from early childhood by parents, and morality is also relational. Relations with others are an important factor, as are how we build and cultivate relationship with others to create safe environment that will produce peace and harmony. The goal of morality is to protect a high quality of life for an individual and community as a whole. There are also modifiers of human acts. One, we have ignorance. Ignorance is the absence of knowledge which a person ought to possess. Another one, passions. These are tendencies towards desirable objects or tendencies away from undesirable or harmful things. Next, fear. Fear is the disturbance of the mind of a person who is confronted by impending danger or harm to himself or loved ones. Next, violence. It refers to any physical force exerted on a person by another free agent for the purpose of compelling said person to act against his will. And lastly, habits. Habits is a lasting readiness and facility born of frequently repeated acts for acting in a certain manner. There are also kinds of human acts. One, we have elicited act. It is performed by the will and are not bodily externalized. Take note that elicited acts limited in our mind. It includes wish. It is the tendency of the will toward something, whether this will be realizable or not. So, wish can be within our mind only. Okay, this could be attainable or this could not be attainable. Intention is the tendency of the will towards something attainable, but without necessarily committing oneself to attain it. We're talking about intention, we are referring to your main goal or your desire or purpose. Consent is the acceptance of the will of those effective to carry out the intention. So if you have decided that this is your intention or that is your intention, then most probably, okay, you will have uh, acceptance of the will. So you will decide what are the things to do or what are the things that you will do to carry out your intention. Election is the selection of the will of those effective enough to carry out the intention. Election is a way to select what is the most appropriate actions or what is the most appropriate decision for you to attain your desire or your intention. Use is the command of the will to make use those means elected to carry out the intention. So, if you have decided in your election, okay, you have selected, okay, the particular means to fulfill your intention, then that's the time that you will now use, okay, those means. So that is use. Fruition is the enjoyment of the will derived from the attainment of the thing he had desired earlier. So fruition is your final decision, meaning to say you have already decided what particular, okay, desire or what will you do to attain the desire or your intention that you have decided a while ago. Next, we have commanded acts. These are done either by men's mental or bodily powers under the command of the will. We have example for internal action. We have conscious reasoning. External action, okay, example, we have walking. Combination of internal and external actions. Driving is one of the examples. We also have dictates of reason. If we say dictates of reason, we are referring to the stance for the norm of morality, which is the standard by which actions are judged as to their merits or demerits. Human acts versus acts of men. Human acts is a moral act depends on whether or not there is a consent by the will. We have example, we have thought, speech, and action. While acts of men are actions beyond one's consciousness, not depend on the intellect and the will. So we have essential qualities of acts of men. It must be done without knowledge, without consent, and it must be involuntary. Social norms are rules that group uses for appropriate and inappropriate values, beliefs, attitude, and behaviors. These are the rules for how people should act in a given group or society. Any behavior that is outside these norms is considered the violation of norms. It consists of rules of conduct and models of behavior prescribed by the society. They are rooted in the customs, traditions, and value system that gradually develop in the society. Classification of actions according to the norm of morality. Moral actions are actions which are in conformity with the norms of morality. Immoral actions are actions which are not in conformity with the norm of morality. And amoral actions, these are actions which stands neutral in relation to the norm of the society. We also have voluntariness. It refers to the will and it comes from the Latin word voluntas, which means will. It is essential or it is an essential element of human acts. There are also classification of voluntariness. One, we have perfect. Perfect is present in a person who fully knows and fully intends an act. Imperfect is present in a person who acts without fully realizing what he means to do or without fully intending the act. Conditional, present in a person who is forced by circumstances beyond his control to perform an act which he would not do under normal conditions. And lastly, simple is present in a person doing an act willfully regardless of whether he likes to do it or not. There are also types of norms. One, we have folkways. These are rules that cover customary ways of thinking, feeling, or behaving, but they lack of any moral overtones. It is sometimes known as conventions or customs, and these are standards of behavior that are socially approved but not morally significant. Um, Examples of folkways, we have talking too loud in the library. Another one, sleeping on the floor. We also have another one is the use or correct manners in all aspect. Proper eating behavior is another one. Take note that breaking a folkway doesn't make you a criminal or immoral. You just stick out during a particular situation. Another one, we have mores. Mores are norms of morality. So one of the example is wearing an appropriate dress while attending a mass in church. So it might offend the culture of other people. Another one, we have taboo. Taboo means a norm that society holds so strongly that violating it result in extreme disgust. So the violator is often considered unfit to live in the society. Examples, okay, cannibalism. Okay, another one is incest. Okay, in some Muslim cultures, okay, eating pork is considered as taboo because the pig is considered unclean. And finally, we have laws. Laws are formally body of rules enacted by the state and backed by the power of the state. Virtually all taboos like child abuse are enacted into law, although not all mores are. Take note. So, taboo can be enacted into a law, but not all mores can be enacted into a law. Like, for example, wearing a bikini inside the church may be offensive, but it is not against the law. Ethics versus law. Ethics is a branch of philosophy which seeks to address questions about morality, that is, about the concepts like good and bad, right, wrong, virtue, and the like. Ethics speaks to how we ought to live, how we ought to treat others, and how we ought to run or manage our lives. While law is a system of rules usually enforced through a set of institutions. It shapes politics, economics, society in numerous ways, and serves as primary social mediator of relationship of people. It is a rule usually made by the government that is used to order the way in which society behaves. Lesson 6, Understanding Standard of Behavior. Standard of behavior offer staff the guidelines to demonstrate the same level of behavior on the daily basis. They serve as a commitment to how these particular employees or government employees will treat each other and how they interact with each other. They or it can cover any and all aspect of a certain work from interactions with others and interaction with clients. Phone etiquette to good manners is another one, like knocking on doors. Positive attitude, like smiling or saying thank you. The impact of culture on ethics and values. Culture is a strong part of people's lives, and it influences their views, their values, their humor, their hopes, their loyalties, and their worries and fears. So, when we are working with people and building relationships with them, it helps to have some perspective and understanding of their culture. Culture describes a collective way of life or way of doing things. It is the sum of attitudes, values, goals, and practices shared by individuals in a group, organization, or society. Culture reflects the moral and ethical beliefs and standards that speak to how people should behave and interact with each others. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, you can chat or you can uh, write your comment on our FB page. So watch out for your forum and other activities in relation to this lecture. Thank you and keep safe, everyone.